Good afternoon and welcome to a cool and cloudy South Africa. We are in the Sabi sands in the Greater Kruger National Park, and we are at the site of a leopard kill. As you can see, there's a male Impala dangling up in a combretum tree. My name is Scott Dyson, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you on board this live safari. I'm teamed up with Dave on camera, and I'm not the only vehicle out this afternoon. Both James and Tristan will also be exploring this incredible wilderness along with me. There'll be no feeds from the Maasai Mara in Kenya this afternoon that I know of, but maybe I'm wrong. And what's interesting here is that I actually came into this kill about 3 or 4 hours ago between the drives, and just wanted to check in if Tundi, the female leopard responsible for killing this male Impala, was on site. And she wasn't. But if I'm not mistaken, it appears like she's come here since we were here at midday. Now, if we look at the Impala's kind of nose, and just behind that, there's quite a lot of freshly exposed meat. It's still quite pink, and I'm fairly certain she's come back and fed on that portion of the carcass. I'm fairly certain that was intact when I came here a bit earlier. Now, I'm not sure if my memory is deceiving me. I might be wrong, and she may be possibly on her way back to this kill now, but I do have a strong suspicion she's come, had a snack, and then headed back to her den sites. We are certain that she's got one tiny little furball cub that we're guessing to be around 6 weeks old at the moment. We've had one sighting of that cub. There may be more, hopefully. But what's interesting is that it appears that she has changed from her previous den site, where we have had the only sighting of her, and we're not too sure where exactly her new den site is, so we've got a bit of work to do working out where exactly she stashed this tiny little cub. Now, I was wrong about there only being feeds from the Sabi Sands in South Africa. There is also Ralph exploring the Maasai Mara, and why don't you go and see what he's getting up to this afternoon in that incredible wilderness. Hopefully he's got something interesting for you guys.
Yes, thank you, Scott, and it was just too good to refuse. With me being the first time here in the Maasai Mara of Kenya, it's a bit of a gloomy day, but nonetheless, it's a fantastic afternoon for a game drive. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and we have Archie on the camera. And it is a great day for us to be heading out into the Maasai Mara on this afternoon's game drive. This morning, I was up in the balloon, as you might have all seen, a very short little clip that came across to me, but we also saw quite a few elephants from the air. We also saw a lot of buffalo that were moving around. Now, there's a lovely old African proverb that says when two bull elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers the most. Now, I think these elephants are definitely not fighting, but they are enjoying grazing on this lovely field of grass. And I tell you, it's been an absolutely amazing experience for me. First time in Kenya, first time in the Maasai Mara, first time in a hot air balloon. And you know, there's another saying that came to mind: when was the last time you did something for the first time? Well, I've been ticking off quite a few of those in the last few days, and I think I'm going to be ticking off a few more. Now, I'm going to be discovering the Maasai Mara from the beginning. We've come down from the escarpment, and we're heading out into these plains here, and I'm going to head down towards the Mara River there, although there is a little bit of ominous looking weather down the bottom. Nonetheless, we will make our way down towards the river, because I think it will be a great opportunity for me to get lost, to get stuck, and who knows what we may find. So with this picture in mind, we've got a lovely savanna setting here, and I'm going to start up shortly and start to head down. Now, this small group of elephants that are in front of us, this bull has taken a little bit of an interest in us, with the wind blowing towards him, as you can see there, a little bit of a head raise. He might be in must, and you know, bulls in must, they can get a little bit naughty, if I can say that. But it's not often that you see elephants grazing like you do out here in the Masai Mara. I've seen it a little bit in the Tosha National Park as well, but generally they do like to feed a bit more on the thick scrub and on the bush. But here the grass is so lush, there's so much red grass. And Trinity, thank you for your question there, asking what do elephants mostly eat. Well, thank you for asking your question, and please, the rest of you, join us on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Well, Tristan, Trinity, excuse me, elephants generally, they feed a lot on a mixed variety of a diet. So as you can see here, they're grazing, which is not always what you see with elephants. I've predominantly seen elephants feeding mostly on acacia brush, on bulbs. They kick up bulbs, and for me it's more a mixed feeder, but I haven't really noticed them grazing as much as I have in the last few days. And as I say, I think it's quite area specific. It all depends on where they can find the juiciest vegetation and tastiest sometimes too. You know, they like to push over a lot of acacias, and there's one having a lovely little scratch on the Balanites tree. And it seems, I've done a little bit of reading up on the Mara here, and you do see a lot of these Balanites and shepherd's trees, but we're only seeing very tall ones. And it seems that the elephant herds really hammer the small bushes. Really hammer this and then move off down towards the river to the south with Tristan, who's in Djuma in the Kruger National Park.
Indeed I am, and a very good afternoon to all of you, and especially warm welcome to all of the schools joining us this afternoon. I hope that you're going to have a wonderful time with all of us as we go around the world of Africa and try and find all of the My name is Tristan, and on camera today I have got Wiem the wildebeest, and we are going to be trying to see if we can find a big male leopard. That's what we're trying to look for this afternoon. He was seen in this area this morning early. Apparently he had a little kill and then he was moving away from that kill. So we're going to try and see if maybe he's gone to a waterhole for a little bit of a drink, because they like water after having a meal. Now remember, you can send through lots of questions, so send your questions through to your teacher and she'll send them through to us. Right, now we're going to start meandering our way towards a big waterhole that's on my right hand side, because that's where I think he might go for a little bit of a drink. It's close enough to where he was briefed. Maybe just find him. He is a really big male and is the dominant male in this area, so that he's the kind of daddy leopard that controls this whole section and definitely is worth seeing. So we're going to try our very best to try and find him. I'm hoping that he will be obliging and will just sit out in the open for us, but that would be against a leopard's character, because leopards are shy and reclusive and often really like to hide away. So it's going to be maybe a little bit of a time that we're going to have to spend looking for him, but hopefully we will get lucky at some point. Right, now I'm going to try and find my spotted cat, but my friend James Henry, who you haven't met just yet, is also out and about, and he's found a bird that makes a funny noise, and I'm sure James will make it for you.
Hello everybody at Salem, Fairfield and Newcastle Elementary School. It's wonderful to have you with us. Those are called grey lories, or go-away birds, and they go wah, wah, wah. They do. My name is James, and you can ask me any questions you like during the course of this little school safari. On camera today, the disreputable fellow that is Jean Dre. That's his thumb. Yes. Stuck with him for 2 hours I am. Anyway, that's how we go. And those are birds called go-away birds because that call I made sounds like go away, go away, go away. Now, why don't you all in the classroom try that, much to the joy of your teachers, no doubt. On the count of 3, you make the call of the go-away bird. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Wah! Wah! There were 1 or 2 people there I could see was not, in fact, calling, so let's try it again. 1, 2, 3. Wah! Wah! There we go. Now, those birds like to eat fruit, mainly, but there's not a lot of fruit around here. And so sometimes they have to eat bugs and insects, and sometimes they have to eat seeds and nuts. All right, we're going down towards a little waterhole here. And this little waterhole, quite a big waterhole. I saw some wild dogs at this waterhole this morning. It was very special indeed. And if we can find something very small and interesting, then I will show it to you with my microscope. Yes, a mobile microscope. Let's see what else we have down here. We're also hoping to show you some lions, because there were some lions around here earlier today. Ooh, there's something that a lion might like to eat. But there are no lions attached to it at the moment. Okay, there we go. We've got what's called a nyala. A whole lot of them. A whole lot of male nyalas. They are what we call an antelope. And there are lots of different kinds of antelope out here. You guys get lots of deer there in North America. Here we get antelope. They're quite similar. And a nyala is one of the 10 species of antelope that we get here. So we get 10 different types of antelope. Quite a lot, eh? Now, these chaps are all young males. They're just like a group of playground boys who are playing together. There we go. Look at their pretty colours. Very nice little brown socks they've got on their legs with white stripes. And a sort of colour, I suppose, that we would describe as charcoal. You can see them chewing. Now, they're not necessarily chewing anything that they've just picked up. They often have to re-chew their food. That's called chewing the cud. And many, many animals, including all the deer, chew the cud. That means they eat once, and I'm going to tell you something very disgusting now. They eat once, then they swallow their food, and then they have to vomit it into their mouths and re-chew it again. Because if you eat only grass and leaves, it's quite difficult for your stomach to get enough nutrition. That means to get enough energy and enough vitamins out of the food, and so they have to re-chew it. Isn't that disgusting? I'm very glad I'm not an antelope that has to do that. Okay, let's carry on from here. We've got to keep going down to the waterhole. Carly, you make a very good point, which I possibly should have mentioned earlier. You say it's very cloudy here. What's the weather like? It's quite chilly here today, you know. It's probably only, I'm going to guess, at around, let's say 73 or so degrees Fahrenheit out here. About 22 degrees centigrade or so. And that's quite cool for now, because we're in midsummer, you see. So it should actually be much hotter than that. But today we've got what's called a cold front blowing over, and that's what all these clouds are. Look at these beautiful antelope. We just want to not make them frightened. And so we'll just turn off and wait for them to come across the road. Oh, now, very exciting. My friend Tristan, who you've met already, has not found a spotted cat. He's found something very much larger.
Indeed I have. So this is the waterhole that I was telling you about, where I was hoping that our leopard might be lying, but instead we've got big giant grey pachyderms that are having the most fun with a bit of a swim. You can see that elephant on the right. He's been in the water all the way. His whole body is wet, so he's been playing in the water itself, and now he's got a young friend to play around with. And these are both boys, so they're young boys, and they are having a bit of fun. And it's like this when they come down to the herd. Always the young males are the ones that will play around in the water, and they like to go in just to cool their body down, and also because it's probably quite fun. You can see they're pushing each other a little bit, and that's not because they are being angry with one another. This is playing around, so they will play fight, and the reason that they play fight is because it's all practice for when they're older and they have to fight with each other to try and find females. Then they have to push each other with those tusks, and so they practice by playing with one another like this, and then they'll kind of push each other and try and use their strength and just kind of practice the technique. Oh, that one's down on its back legs. I wonder if it's going to lie down for us. Sometimes they like to lie down, and particularly if they're playing around a bit. Kylie, you're wondering how tall elephants are. Well, really tall male elephant will stand about 3 meters tall. So that in feet is, I'm just trying to think now what it would be in feet. It would be somewhere around 9, 10, 12 feet, somewhere around there. It's about the right size. So they're very tall when they're fully grown. Both of these boys are still young individuals. They are going to grow a lot more and get much taller than what they are now. Now, when they play like this, generally something is about to go wrong. I'm sure one of them is going to slip in the water because they're playing on a steep slope. So we're just waiting for one of them to go. And in the background there, you can see they've got a friend that is watching. So there's a waterbuck in the background. That's a type of antelope that we get here, and as the name suggests, they spend most of their time in and around water. They like to use the water for safety. If there's a predator around, they can run into the water and stay nice and safe. But the ellies are still pushing themselves. How cool is that? So Shelby wondering if both male and female elephants have tusks and what the tusks are used for. Well, Shelby, yes, both male and female elephants have tusks. So these are both boys that we've got here. But in the background, which we'll show you just now, is a whole bunch of girls with their calves and with their babies that are all on the banks just leaving the waterhole. So they've already had a drink and they're now starting to come down. So there's some of them. And they've also got tusks as well. Now, the reason why both will have tusks is because one is that they can use it to defend themselves. The other is that they use it to be able to find certain food. So in the winter months when we don't have any rain and all of the grass starts to die and the trees lose their leaves, an elephant needs its tusks to be able to feed off certain things. So it will have to break off bark, it will have to get to roots, and they can use those tusks then to dig into the tree and pull off bits of bark, or put them in the ground and lift the roots up and break the roots and then be able to feed off them. So that's what they use them for a lot of the time. And then obviously if they get attacked by anything, then they'll use those tusks to defend themselves and to try and poke at whatever is around them and trying to hurt them. So amazing though, look at that. You see how they're practicing? So when they're really fighting, this is what's going to happen, is they go head to head like this and they test each other's strength. Because they're not meat eaters, they don't have to worry about hunting one another, so they're not trying to kill each other, they're just trying to test the strength and to try and work out who's the strongest and to practice the technique to be able to push the other one away. And you see how that one is bending its legs? It's trying to stop the other one get its tusks anywhere near its chest, because that's where the skin is soft and where it might get hurt. So that's why it's doing that. And you can also see that sometimes the younger, smaller bull elephants are very cheeky, because the smaller one is giving the bigger one a lot of trouble, and he's going to get a hiding at some point. But you can see now they're moving away from the water. Swim time is over. It's time to go back into the bush to go and feed. Jali, you're wondering how long an elephant's tusks get. Well, nowadays we don't see as many of the big, long, tusked elephants like we used to see. Back in the day, before, when there was a lot of hunting and a lot of poaching, we used to have much bigger elephants, but unfortunately a number of those elephants were shot and poached, which is very, very sad. But their tusks, on nowadays, we will average probably, I would say, about 3 feet would be an average size
tusk, or biggish size tusk, and the really, really big elephants, well, their tusks will be close to about 5 feet. I mean, that's massive, massive tusks, and they'll weigh over 100 pounds, so massive in their size. And in fact, the really biggest ones, the record tusks, those were more along the lines of 8 foot, 9 foot, which is absolutely massive. So you do get really big tusked elephants, unfortunately not as many as there used to be. Here in this particular section, if we go far north up towards Mozambique and Zimbabwe in the Greater Kruger National Park, you still get some of those really big elephants, but down here we seldom see them. For some reason they don't tend to spend much time down here. We get a lot of the females and the calves, but not those really big males with the massive tusks. Now something else has just popped its head out of the water at us, and that is a hippopotamus. So there is a little friend of the elephants that also spends a lot of time in the water. You'll see it's a bit shy. He's just got his head under now because the camera has been pointed at him. No, I'm just joking. Is they do go underwater a lot of the time, and then they'll come out onto the bank at night to come and feed. So during the day, because they don't have hair, much like us as people, they have a very, very, very smooth skin, and that skin is easily sunburnt, and so they have to spend a lot of time in water to try and stay out of the sun, also to keep their skin nice and hydrated, because otherwise if they dehydrate, which basically means they lose too much moisture when it's sunny, then they can obviously die from that. So they need to try and stay away from it as much as possible. Right, our elephants are moving off, so I want to try and catch up with them. I'm going to go around onto the other side, and hopefully we can find all of the others that were there. There were probably about 20 or 30 elephants here, so we're going to try and see if we can find all of them. It's going to take us a little bit of time just to get round, so hopefully we will see them, but I'm wondering, let's see, I think going back is going to be better. But no male leopards, unfortunately, that I can see so far. It looks as though our male leopard may be sleeping somewhere else other than the water. Right, now while I try catch up with our elephant herd that is moving away from us at the moment, let's go back to Scott and see what his plans are now that he's left Tundi's kill.
Hello everyone, and yes, it sounds like you guys are having a wonderful time with those Ellies, and we're having a wonderful time trying to work out where is Tundi, this female leopard. So I've pulled up a little map here, and I would like to show you kind of what's going on with regards to where we think she might be and where her den site used to be. So the kill that we were with is over here at this little junction, Philemon's Dip with Weaver's Nest. So that's where the kill is. We are the blue dot over here, and we've driven along Ingwe Alley. This is the direction her tracks came in, away from the kill over here. Her last tracks headed kind of in this direction, north and east. Now what's interesting is that her old den site was right over here. So had it still been in the same place, it's unlikely that her tracks would have crossed a road over here, Ingwe Alley. It would have come all the way further south, back directly to her den site. So we're guessing that her new den site is somewhere in this general area, judging from the movement of her tracks away from that kill. So we're kind of just slowly driving through this area, stopping, listening, hoping that we're going to get some signs of where she may be. Now, ideally, the easiest time for us to find her will be when she's on the move back to the kill, and it'll be wonderful to see her. But the sooner we find her on her way to the den, the closer it means we are to her den site, and then we'll be able to start backtracking, especially while she's away from the den with the kill. It's a safe time for us to start searching on foot, backtracking her, hopefully back to the den site. So those are our plans. I was thinking of also, even though her tracks aren't heading back towards the old den sites, and even though Tristan did spend a considerable amount of time at the what we think is the old den site this morning, that's not to say, of course, that she's still not using it, but there's a high likelihood that she has moved off. Another possibility that we need to think about is that she may have made another kill between here and her new den sites and or old den sites, and that means she may have abandoned the further kill for the time being. She'll probably go and check if it's still there, even though she knows it could be stolen by other leopard, possibly even hyena. She hasn't hoisted it very high into that small bush willow tree, but there is a likelihood that she may have another kill somewhere that's a bit more conveniently situated to her new den site. So those are our plans. We're going to spend our afternoon highly focused on trying to find her. Ooh. Hello Landon, you would like to know what else will leopard eat besides impala? Well, they are very, very opportunistic. They'll feed on tiny little newborn chicks, little birds. I've seen a female leopard walk up to a bird's nest that was kind of at eye level for the leopard and just gobble the tiny chicks straight out the nest. They've been known to dive into muddy wallows and catch catfish, eat tortoises, but your general prey for leopard would be small antelope. So anything from steenbok and duiker, which are the two smallest antelope we get here, up to impala, inyala, baby kudu. A lot of the baby animals, even a baby wildebeest, could be sniped by a leopard. And big male leopards have got the ability of taking down far larger prey than their lady companions, up to the size of possibly even a big kudu bull. But highly, highly opportunistic, Landon, and they'll take just about anything that they can overpower. Monitor lizards, snakes from time to time, pythons. Very, very good. So we're going to continue to work this area. I think I'm going to take this little 2-track that runs down into the Mulwata here and see if I can't find any tracks of her in this area. And while we do that, we are going to send you across to James to see what he's getting up to.
I can't find the lions. I don't know where they went. But you know, we were talking about the weather earlier, and it is much cooler today than we normally have in the middle of summer. So maybe instead of being lazy fat cats, which is normally what they are, maybe they went off and found themselves a different place to lie. You can see through here it's very thick bush. Now lions like to be in thick bush like that. So while you quickly look at the bush there, you keep looking in the bush there, I'm going to fetch something to put under my microscope. I'm going to be very careful, looking every which way to make sure that I don't stand on a lion's tail or kick its paw, because they don't like that. They can get very cross. Ooh, here's something interesting. I've dropped him. Wait, let me get him. Where have you gone? There you are. Okay, let's have a look here. This is going to be very interesting, I hope. Okay, now what I have here, let me just pull it out quickly. A very special thing, which I hope is not going to detach itself from itself. No, it hasn't. Called a microscope. And it's like an enormous magnifying glass. Let me just put myself in a position that I can operate it and still hear Louise in the final control. Now, here we go. Let me just push the button quickly. Now what I have here is a grasshopper, and I'll show him to you. Now I will let him go. We mustn't hurt animals like this. There we go, that's what he looks like. And now we're going to put him under the microscope and see what he looks like. Oh, he's a bit upside down there. Let's try that again. He's still a bit upside down. There, look. Look at him. Isn't he amazing? That's what a grasshopper looks like in front. Look at his big eyes. And look at his antenna, his feelers. What he's trying to do with his feelers there is just to clean them. See, he's holding the one with his front foot. Isn't that fun? I think he's just amazing. Now, let's just have a look there. Look at his eyes. Isn't that amazing? And look at his mouth, which is used to eat grass. And he looks like he's just in the middle of eating something when I caught him. Isn't that nice? All right, I'm going to now put him back where he was. Otherwise, he's going to get very upset. Now, this kind of grasshopper is poisonous to animals. And it's poisonous to animals that eat it because it eats plants that would be poisonous to us even. And it's very cleverly colored, black and yellow and white. And what that does is warn predators that they shouldn't eat him because then they'll be sick. Okay. Let me pop him back in the tree. And while I do that, let's go back to see Tristan and his elephants.
Well, yes, we are with our Ellies, and it seems like a very happy Ellie who's wagging its tail. And of course, it's not wagging its tail because it's happy. It's to try and keep all the flies away. Now, this elephant here is the great-great-grandmother of this herd. She's an old female, and the reason why we know that is because if you look on her hip area, you'll see that her bones stick out a little bit. So when elephants get a little bit older, so they have a little bit of muscle atrophy, and that means that the muscle actually starts to reduce and the bones start to stick out. Also on her head, you'll see that there's this area above the eyes where it almost looks like the head is sinking into the skull, and so it's a good way of being able to age an elephant. She must be very old. I would say even as in late 40s, maybe even early 50s, which is about as old as the elephants in the Kruger Park area get. So our elephants here generally, on average, will live to about 55 years of age. And so she's right up there. You can also see long tusks for a female. Generally, the females have much shorter tusks than the males, but she's got really nice long tusks. And you can see there, she's busy eating some grass now. Bit of a mixed diet. And there's that area that I was saying. You see how it's sunken in? Now, on the bull elephants we saw earlier, that's not like that. That's still got a lot of muscle there. And so she's starting to age quite a bit. But that's okay. She'll be the female that will be very experienced and will lead our elephants around and make sure they know where to find food and water, even in the most difficult times. So she's a very important part of the herd. It's always good to have old, experienced females because that's who the other young ones will learn from. Because in elephant life, the female is in charge. So the mommy elephants are the ones that look after everybody and make sure that everything goes on. The daddy elephants tend to travel a lot. Rowan, you're wondering what an elephant's predators are. Well, other than humans, because humans are their number one predator, then you'll find that in the natural system like this, mostly we will see things like lions will be their biggest threat. But an elephant of that size is far too big for lions to go after. Lions will hunt the babies and even some of the young males. Now look, here's our naughty, cheeky male from earlier. You see how he's coming to try and kind of investigate us, and his ears are out. So he's trying to make himself look bigger, to try and impose himself and make himself look more serious and big. And they do this to try and intimidate, and when they're not sure what's going on, you can see he starts moving off again. And the reason why he moves off is because he's not a big, fully grown male just yet, and so he doesn't have the confidence or the attitude to try and push me around too much. So when I stand my ground, then he gets a little bit nervous, and then he goes back to all of the females that are over there and goes and tries to find his mommy to try and look after him. Even though he's a big boy now and doesn't need his mommy to look after him, he doesn't have to worry about too much. He still will try though. But very cool to see. It's amazing to be in amongst the elephants. They are some of my favorite animals, and they are such special creatures. When you sit here and you just sit with them, they are so relaxed and they go about feeding, and it's very calm to be inside here with the elephants. And we're lucky because our elephants here are a lot more relaxed than some of the elephants in other parts of Africa. Luckily, our elephants are very well protected, and we have very good systems in place to keep the elephants safe in South Africa, and that means that they're quite trusting of our vehicles, and so we don't have to worry about them trying to charge us. Indiana, you're asking how do elephants protect themselves? Well, firstly, they have incredible senses. So they've got great sense of hearing, smell, and sight, which means that they often see predators before they can get anywhere near. Then they are the biggest of the land animals here in Africa. So there is no animal that's really anywhere near the same size as what these elephants are, which means that they don't really have to worry about too much. Only big prides of lions would be a threat. And if big prides of lions came, then the whole herd will come together and chase those lions. And they'll use their trunk and their tusks and their massive amount of weight to try and then throw those lions away. And lions are very scared of elephants for the most part. When elephants come, lions will start running. For mostly, it's only in areas where there's very little other food that the lions will try and hunt elephants. Here in the Sabi Sands and Greater Kruger National Park, our lions very, 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 very seldom will go after them. So they're pretty safe in this area. Now I'm going to try and keep up with our herd. It's slowly moving through the vegetation and feeding, so hopefully we'll have a situation where they'll come out a little bit more and we can see just how many are here, because I think there's, like I said earlier, about 30 of them in total, and hopefully there's some little babies in amongst them. I'd like to show you a little baby elephant, because baby elephants are some of my favorite creatures. They are so cute, and they normally are a little naughty. They run around and their ears go and they throw their trunk everywhere, so they're quite fun. Palin, in terms of how many elephants can be in a herd, well, that depends, because here in South Africa we get herds that range from small to very, very big. So a small herd for us would be 4 or 5 elephants together, but big herds can sometimes be well over 100 elephants, which is a lot of animals. You can imagine 100 of these guys walking together. It is really a lot, and it makes a lot of kind of destruction because they eat a lot, they break trees, they eat grasses, and so those herds don't tend to stay together for too long. But our herd is coming up slowly on our right hand side, so I'm just trying to get ahead of them a little bit so that they'll walk towards us. There is a road that's coming up and they're going to cross that road, I think. Let's have a look. Maybe if we go around this corner it's going to be better. I was thinking they might stop and feed, but it looks like they're still coming. Let's go round. So this is the road that I'm hoping they're going to cross in front of us, and then we'll be able to tell how many are here. There was quite a few of them though. Let's see. There she is. So we can just see one of the females through there. A little bit forward, Viam. Ah, there we go. Carly, you're wondering what the tusks are made of. Well, Carly, those tusks are made of ivory. And what ivory is a modified tooth. So that is an incisor tooth that has grown extra long and it's been modified for protection. So that's what the tusk is. It's just like any of your teeth, and this is the same thing. So that will continue to grow throughout their lives, and that's why we can also use tusks sometimes as a way of telling how old an elephant is. A female elephant with tusks that long must be very old, and that's our great-great-grandmother that we were talking about earlier. The rest of them are still behind her and are still making their way slowly towards this area. It's going to take them a bit of time because they are enjoying the cool, cloudy conditions. It means that they can spend time out in the open and feed without having to worry about too much sun and dehydrating too much. Right, Elise, you've got to start coming out a little bit for us because they're still very well hidden. I'm going to try and get a bit more forward because Viam's got lots of bushes in his way, so it's going to make difficult for him to see. Viam, what about there? That's a bit better. So there we go. She can see now how she's feeding off the tree. It's amazing to watch how that trunk works. So she puts the trunk around the branches and then pulls them and puts it into her mouth. So she's really eating lots of different types of trees as well. And this is the thing about elephants, is that they have a very bad digestive system. So they use all kinds of different trees that have different nutrients to try and sustain their digestive system. Now, Emily, you're wondering how the elephants pick things up. Well, if you look at the elephant's trunk, it's got lots of muscles in it and no bones, which means the trunk can go in any direction, up and down and sideways, and it can go shorter, longer, and move quite a bit. There's more muscles in that trunk than there is in your whole body, Emily, so it's a very, very, very useful tool for the elephant. And then on the tip of the trunk, there's two little sort of fingers almost. It's little points to the trunk, and they act like fingers, and so they can grab things, and then they wrap their trunk around it, and then because the trunk weighs over 300 pounds on a big fully grown elephant, it makes it very heavy, and then they can just pull things off. So that's how they're able to feed. And if it won't break with just the trunk, then they'll use their tusk. Did you see that? Do you see how she just uses her head? Amazing. For us to go and break that would be very difficult, but an elephant has so much power that it's able to just break branches at will. It really is incredible to see how strong these guys are. There you go. Now that it's broken the branch, you see how it just uses the trunk? And it's so delicate. It even though it's such a big animal and you would think that it would just throw food into its mouth and it wouldn't really care, you can actually see how it picks off all the little leaves and it's not actually eating the woody part of the plant. And that's because the leaves at the moment, we've just had rain, so the leaves are full of nutrients, whereas the plants themselves, the wood themselves is difficult to digest. So rather than taking space in the stomach and making it hard for them to actually get the nutrients out of it, they would rather eat all the little leaves and leave the wood behind. And so that's where that trunk becomes in handy, because it's almost like fingers and it can pull off all these little leaves as it goes about feeding. Very cool to see. She's a beautiful girl. So, Mrs. Hayton, you're wondering how we stay safe on safari, and am I ever scared of these elephants? Well, two different questions, but we'll get into both of them. So, in terms of how do I stay safe on safari, well, the thing is about animals is that if we are very respectful to them and we don't cut off their pathway that they're walking, or we don't drive straight at them and we show them a lot of respect, then they generally get very used to us and they then don't see us as something to worry about. If we don't chase them, we don't hurt them, we don't take food away from them, then generally they are nice and relaxed with us. And it's also important that we respect how they're feeling. So they'll often show if they're very upset, and they'll get their ears out and they'll shake their head and they'll trumpet, and then you know that you are too close and it's time to back away. So you try and read the animals as much as possible and read the signs that they are showing that they are uncomfortable if they are, and then leave them alone and let them have their space. So that's the easiest way to stay safe. Also, to be careful about your surroundings, use your eyes and your ears and your noses to listen, smell, and look out for danger. And when you see something like this, if you're on foot or if you are trying to track an animal, then to try and give them as much space as possible without influencing them. In terms of the elephants, do they make me feel nervous? No, the elephants don't make me feel nervous, and the reason why is that I absolutely love them, and I've spent many years around elephants. I've been over 9 years that I've been with elephants and out and about following them, and so for me, it's a situation where as long as I'm comfortable in that, I will be able to read the signs when they are upset and when it's not safe to approach them. This particular situation, you can see the elephants are paying no attention to me. They are not stopping their feeding behavior. They're not just watching me. They're just kind of passing through and they're eating as they go. And so there is no way that they are upset with me. By now, they would have already told me that I'm too close or that I'm not welcome, and I would have been able to leave. But for now, they're very relaxed. They're feeding. Everybody is happy. And so that means that I can spend more time. Now, I'm going to try and see, this elephant is disappearing. You can see why it's difficult sometimes to even find these elephants. You would think that it would be very easy to see massive, big animals that weigh over 12,000 pounds, but sometimes they can blend in very, very well. So let's see, here's maybe a better view here. There we go. Josie, wondering who leads the herd? Well, there will be a matriarchal female. So what that means is there is a female that is dominant and she leads what goes on. The boy elephants, they tend to go and do their own thing. So once they reach about 12 to 15 years old, they're chased away by the mommy elephants and they're pushed out and they have to go and feed and do their own thing. And then the females or mommies will try and lead the herd, but there will be one female in particular that we call the matriarch, and she's like the boss of a company. She makes sure that she takes the elephants to safe places, finds food for them, finds water for them, and I'm pretty sure that it's this female that's in front, this old female that we're talking about. Generally, it is the older females, and you can see how she walks in front and the rest of the herd follows her. Now, I'm going to just turn a little bit so that VM's got some space, so I do apologize because there's some aerials behind us, and you'll see maybe she's going to cross the road for us, which will be really nice. So there we go. Sorry, VM. There we go. You can see it is a cloudy day, which the elephants absolutely love. They love these conditions. When there's a bit of cloud cover around, it's nice and cool, and they don't have to worry about trying to keep themselves out of the sun. They can just amble around and try to find food. Now look, you see how she just stops and sniffs a little bit? Just making sure that it's safe to cross the road for the rest of the herd, and that's why she probably is the matriarch. Like I say, generally the elephant in front. So Kylie and Kelly, you're wondering why elephants' ears are so large. Well, it's all there because, as I was saying just now, when it's hot, it's very difficult for the elephants to stay cool. They're a big animal, which means that the sun is on their body all the time, and it makes their body get very, very warm. And obviously, if they stay out in the sun for too long without a system to cool them down, it would be very, very difficult for them to stay alive. And so that ear has got lots and lots of blood vessels in it and on the back side of the ear. So what they do is they flap their ears, and that blood then gets covered by wind, and it cools the blood down and sends the cooler blood back into the body, so that this is like a natural aircon system. And so in cars we have a thing called a radiator, and that's how the elephant's ear works, is exactly like a radiator. It allows wind to cool down the hot part of the ear and then send the cooler blood back into the body. It's very, very clever. The other thing about big ears like that means that they can hear very well. So when they hear a sound, they push their ears forward, and all of that will then trap sound waves. Now I want you in your class to put your ear like this while I'm talking, and listen to how much louder I sound when you put your hands over your ears like this. It allows more sound to come in, and it sounds much easier to hear what's going on. So that's why elephants have such great hearing. Here comes some more that are just coming out of the bush towards us as well. The rest of the herd slowly moving through this particular area. Isn't it wonderful? They're very relaxed with us this afternoon. It's always nice when we get to see these elephants like this. They tend to be very, very chilled and taking it nice and easy, which is great. It's the best way to spend time with elephants. Now you can see that she's just... Right, well, there's actually a little baby elephant. So I know it's almost time for us to finish up with all of you, but I want to show you a little baby elephant before it disappears. It's going to come out of that little area. So this is the rest of the herd is coming towards us. There it is. You see how cute it is? Tiny little baby moving around in the distance there. It doesn't really even have its tusks yet. How cute is that? Now, unfortunately, it is that time of the day where we have to say goodbye to all of you. I hope that you've had a wonderful time and you enjoyed the elephants and you enjoyed all of the wonderful things that you saw out in Africa today, and that you have a great day further at school. But for the rest of our viewers, we're going to go across to Scott Dyson and see what he's been up to, and hopefully we'll see you guys in a little bit.
See that like cave up there? Hello everyone, and I didn't hear those comms because my earpiece had been fallen out, obviously by a little branch, as we were sneaking our way into Tundi's presumed old den site. Now somewhere in that tangle of roots and branches is where we've had the one and only visual of her tiny little cub, and you can see it's very dark and thick in there, but it doesn't appear like she is on site. We're going to spend a few moments here. Like I said, we're not entirely sure that she has moved dens. It could be that she's made another kill nearby. That's confusing us and making us wonder that she's possibly moved dens. Beautiful little spot though, and interestingly enough, this was the exact same spot that her mother raised her last litter of cubs. Her mother was a leopard called Kruger. We presume she is no longer alive. We haven't seen her for many months, but this was the exact same spot where Kruger first had Hosanna and Shongile. Very, very well chosen spot. There's not too many great den sites opportunities here on Djuma, to be honest. I think leopards would prefer rocky outcrops as their kind of number one option. At least that's what I've noticed in my time in the Sabi sands. There was quite a few rocky outcrops on the property where I started my career as a guide here in the Sabi sands, and all of the females with the most power would choose territories that had those rocky outcrops, and those are the areas they would mainly use as their dens. Now, I'm confident that she's not here at the moment. It's not to say that she's definitely moved dens, but I think we're going to keep moving. I think I'm going to head off to another den site, a den site for some francolins. We found a francolin nest this morning on Bushwalk, and I would like to see if we can show you that. So I'm going to go and look for that. After that, we're going to head back to Tundi's kill. Hopefully she'll be on that. If not, we'll continue searching for anything else of interest. But for now, over to James.
Well, we have some kudu here who, during Scott's Link, had 3 birthdays. But anyway, they were still on there. They're still on the termite mound there. For those of you who've just joined us and perhaps weren't with us for the school drive, my name is James Hendry. Good. And please do talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and, of course, the YouTube chat stream. Kudu, you know. Nyala, also you know. And, in fact, many of you, of course, will know just about as much, in fact, possibly more than I do about the animals that we look at here. It's an interesting afternoon in that it's it's not very warm. A chilly-ish breeze blowing in from the southeast, and it really has been a very mild summer so far. We've had 1 or 2 hot afternoons, but many mornings, most mornings actually, fairly cloudy, just like they were for our TV show today. And I don't know how many of you managed to catch the TV show. I hope that if you did, you enjoyed it. And I must just say, as we look at those kudu, very sadly, of course, that I didn't get a chance to show you my lion's eye. Get it? Big Cat Week, lion's eye. Ha ha ha. It's a flower. Judy H. obviously picked up on it, sitting on my little shelf next to me here on Jigger. Unfortunately, there was potting soil all over the car after our wild dog chase, and the lion's eye was a little worse for wear. It is now planted in a hole next to Chitwa Dam, where hopefully it will reside unmolested until the end of its natural life. Gorgeous sighting there of kudu. We did find tracks of the Styx Pride. Unfortunately, they went into Tonchwood, which means that, unfortunately, we will not be seeing them this afternoon. Not to say we won't find other cats around here for Big Cat Week, perhaps Tamba or Hosanna. Now, I missed the name there, Luisi, sorry. Emma. Emma, you want to know what the smell is around here? Quite strongly of Gendre's conditioner. Other than that, let me do this, then I won't smell Gendre's conditioner. It smells fresh today. It's not it's a typical summer smell in that there's no dust in the air, so it doesn't smell very dusty at all. But also this wind tends to blow away the really nice summer smells of flowers and grass and that sort of thing, which you'd get after a hot day, because the heat obviously helps the, what do we call them? Oh, those oils that come out of plants. It'll come to me, and if it doesn't, please tell me. Well, aromatic oils, thank you, Louise, and that are jeepers, I've lost my mind here. My chemistry has disappeared. Basically, they heat up and they take to the air and get into your nose. But without that heat, they don't do that. And so, unfortunately, we don't have that sort of smell now, and that's because of the cool day. But it's a very fresh, pleasant smell out here. Right, there are the kudus. I just need to turn the Game Drive radio down before it deafens me entirely. While I do that, Tristan Deeks is still with his herd of elephant, and can you believe it, he's got even more to tell you about them.
Well, I am still with my elephants, and I suppose I do have more to tell you about them. They are moving off into Buffelshoek, and so we shortly will not have them, although these two are having a bit of a game. I suppose I should go forward to help VM because, well, there's a big fat tree in his way. So while these two push each other around, let's try and get a little bit further forward. There's lots of shenanigans this afternoon, and I suppose the weather dictates that these guys are in a good mood. Oh, there's now a branch in your way. I'm sorry, VM. It's not easy with these guys, although they're going out there we go, that's fine. They're moving out the way now, which is good news. Now, I just heard some Franklin's alarm calling. It could be that the elephants have just moved through there and chased them, but you never know. It's not far from where Tingana was found by Steph on the bushwalk this morning. Apparently, he was in a horrible thicket with the duiker kill that he had just finished up, and so I'm sure he's around here somewhere. It's just a matter of trying to find him. Now, while those two disappear, I see the rest of the herd is coming up on the right-hand side, so I'm going to go back quickly. So Zoe, you're wondering about what would happen if a matriarch of a herd were to die or lose its place or disappear or for some reason no longer be a part of the herd itself. Well, we'll just find that an elephant would take over. So another older female would take over. Generally from her bloodline is normally what takes place. So you normally have a situation where her oldest daughter will take over from her. It's not always the case, but 90% of the time that's how it works. So the elephant structure, even though there will be a matriarchal female, there will be another female that is in senior and will kind of look after the herd and make sure that she learns from her mother and then passes that on to all of the rest that are within the herd structure. There comes our bull elephant that had a really good swim. You can see how much darker he is than the rest, and you see how that skin actually absorbs moisture. So even though he was swimming, the darkness that you're seeing is because the skin itself has absorbed moisture. It's not that it's kind of just rolling off like our skin. Our skin, as we get wet, so it kind of rolls off or it dries, but theirs actually absorbs the water and helps to keep that skin nice and elastic and hydrated, which is very cool. Right, that's the last of them, off into Buffelshoek. So we're going to go back towards Buffelshoek Dam, see what those Franklins were screaming about, see if maybe Tingana's decided to stroll his way towards the dam for a little drink. It would be nice if he did. Hopefully he will. This morning was a tough morning in terms of we tried to find leopard all morning and, well, nothing really worked out for us. And Tandi wasn't at the den, she wasn't at the kill, and, you know, it was a difficult kind of situation to try and work out where exactly she's gone. I have a sneaky suspicion that she's moved that den. She was seen very briefly going into that area 2 days ago, so she was still using that den about 2-3 days ago, but since then I don't know where she's moved to, and it seems kind of that maybe that not far from there yesterday, so in the area maybe he's on that, and that's why he go there, he just moves off, and that's the end of that. But we'll try and see. I mean, you never know, we'll have to catch one of them on it to be able to know exactly what's happening. But while we kind of look for Tingana, let's go back across to James, who's got something I didn't really hear, but I'm sure it will be entertaining nonetheless.
It is the Bateleur eagle. Oh, fantastic. We got to just the right time for it to go to the loo and for me to miss the photograph. Wonderful stuff. Isn't that nice, everyone? I bet all of you were desperately hoping when you tuned in today, you thought to yourselves, you know, the one thing I'd like to see today is a Bateleur defecating. Well, you have your wish. Let us continue. I thought maybe that these Bateleur down here had come... Well, let's just drive down here. One of them came off the ground, and I wondered if there wasn't perhaps some kind of kill for them to scavenge, until Jando pointed out, of course, that we're right next to the Chitwa bush braai site. There it is. And he said maybe somebody dropped a choppy. In other words, maybe somebody dropped a recently finished lamb chop or chicken bone. I don't think that's what happened. It's magnificently kept. Righty, let's see what else we can find on Chitwa today. I was rather hoping to find the Styx Pride, have them to ourselves so that we could sort of have a look at them with Ronald. Ronald is in the car with us, keeps shouting at me, desperate to get out of his little box and have a drive around. Unfortunately, it was not possible on account of the lack of lions. Thank you very much, all of you, for your kind congratulations for our performance on the TV show today. We did, I think, put on quite a good show. With lots of cats, a couple of dogs, unbelievably no leopard. And I'm not sure anyone told you this, but our dress rehearsal the day before was quite astonishing. It had 3 kills. Yes, 3. A scrub hare by some cheetah, a zebra by the Angama pride, and Tundi whacked herself an Impala, all of them live during the rehearsal. So don't feel too bad. We will put those highlights out on social media, but really quite astounding. Oh, this is extremely exciting. Scott Dyson has had success.
Well, we haven't had the greatest success, but we are waiting patiently, hoping that Tundi does come back to what seems likely to be an old and abandoned den site now. And it's quite frustrating for us. We were incredibly confident going into this morning's TV show that Tundi would either be here at the den sites or at an Impala kill. She was at neither. And we didn't manage to find a leopard during the TV show, but that is not the end of the world. Of course, it's very easy for us to start getting a little bit, not complacent, but you kind of start presuming things and start thinking, well, in all likelihood, she's still going to be at the den, but we didn't think that maybe she would move den sites, which appears is exactly what has happened. Now, I brought up a little map earlier. I would like to show you again on the map exactly kind of what's going on. We are the little blue dots at her presumed old den sites. Her kill is right over here. Okay, and the last tracks we had of her were over there and heading in a northeasterly direction, so kind of on that trajectory, which means that, of course, it's not likely that she is coming back to the old den, and the new den is somewhere off in this general direction. Just heard a noise. Not too sure what it was. It could have been the flapping of a bird. It was somewhere there. Who knows? Maybe there's another little cave or crevice nearby where Tundi could be, and I'm just looking at a little bit of a hole. I don't think Dave will have an angle on it. But there's another little hole in the river, kind of in the bank of this riverbed. Huh. Did you hear that noise, Dave? Huh. I thought possibly a bird flapping, or maybe kind of Tundi shaking her head to get rid of some flies, possibly. Either way, though, it's unlikely, and like I was showing you on the map, her previous sets of tracks heading away from her kill would indicate that she was not coming back to this point, and that she was somewhere further to the north and to the east of us. So I think what we're going to do for now is possibly move out of this area and head off to a Franklin's Nest, and hopefully be able to show you that. We found it on the bushwalk this morning, and after that we are going to head back towards the Impala kill in the hope that she will be there. Oh, wonderful. Well, it sounds like Ralph up in the Maasai Mara and the rest of the team have managed to fix whatever little technical issue they had over there, so we're going to be able to send you back to him, and he has got a little bit of a surprise in store for you, the first big cat of the afternoon.
Yes, thanks, Scott. It definitely is a little bit of a gremlin-y afternoon, but I tell you what, it's still lovely to be in the presence of one of these beautiful cats. Now, there were 3 of them, and 2 of the others got up and walked off, just a little bit off to the front of this lion. Now, he looks like he's having a little bit of a bad hair day, and it's all to do with this rain that we've been having. We were also battening down the hatches a minute ago, and it seems to have passed by just a little bit over the escarpment. And this male lion, I'm trying to work it out because I've done a little bit of research and chatting to everybody around the campfire and working out the lions here, and it seems that there has been quite a bit of instability in the Mara triangle of late, with the old male lion called Notch. Now, please, if anybody knows any better than me, please feel free to set me straight. But it seems that there is an old male lion called Notch that has been crossing the river with his 3 young sons in a coalition, and they've been causing havoc in the local prides. Now, I say havoc because normally it would be quite settled when a group or a coalition moves into an area and takes over a pride, possibly killing some of the cubs and then fathering their own. But if they stay in the general vicinity, that's fine, because then stability reigns. But it seems what has been happening with Notch and his 3 sons is that they cross the river, they cause havoc by killing the cubs and mating with the females, and then they disappear back over the river again, leaving it open to nomadic males who then come through and do exactly the same. And then by the time Notch and his 3 sons come back again, the same goes on. So it's almost like we're sitting with a bit of a problem there, where there's not a stable group of males in a particular area. Now, I say that I think that this is those 3 sons, because I've had a look at these lions and I don't see the notch that goes with the name of the old male, big notch in his ear. And these 3 guys look all pretty much of the same age, so I am assuming that it is these 3 sons of Notch. Now, they are in fantastic condition. Kalen, fantastic comment from Kalen saying, I'm not quite sure if this is Notch and his sons. A fantastic comment there. Play on words, absolutely. I'm not quite sure. There's a tongue twister. Ha ha. No, so that's one of the beauties of coming to a new area. Now, we are looking in a little bit on his ear there, and it's quite normal for male lions to be quite tattered and scarred. You know, they generally fight with each other, whether it's over dominance, over food, and generally their faces are quite scarred and bad, scratched up and quite bad looking. But that mane is in prime condition. It's almost like a Kalahari male lion, which I've seen many of as well, and it only doesn't extend down onto the chest, which is where the Kalahari male lions are quite unique in having that really black mane. But nonetheless, this is still a fantastic individual. He's looking prime condition, and he's sitting in the breeze in the red grass. It's very good grazing material. That, as we saw with the elephants when you were with me just before. Now, there in the background, that's the Olololo gate. So one of the entrances into the park. And so we're not far from that Olololo Pride area. Also the Angama Pride, which is what Taylor had last night and this morning. And I'm sure I haven't even been able to see the show yet. I just heard from the updates and a little bit from what I gathered from the hot air balloon. I was in the area as well, near to Taylor. It seemed like she had quite a lot of good action with the Angama Pride. So we're in that area. Not sure, I haven't seen the Angama Pride per se, but these males are in that area that she was in this morning. So it's been a lovely time sitting with these guys. And just be careful, there might be a vehicle just passing us in the front. He's gone around the back of us. That's very nice of him. Now, there are other vehicles around, and We've just been sitting here on our own, but we've had another vehicle join us now. Paula, thanks for that question. What am I looking for the most now that I'm in the Mara? Well, I can tell you that to start off with, it would have been the migration and all the zebra and the wildebeest and the gazelle crossing the river. I've come a little bit late for that, but it is just this pure wilderness. And one of the things that have always excited me from coming to the Mara, the Maasai Mara and the Mara Triangle, is the real density of lions. And all the guides that I've spoken to in the 18 years that I've been guiding, that has always rung home with me, is that they've always said that it's almost like there's lions around every corner. So that's what's great for me now. First up, I've just driven down the escarpment. We had a little sighting with some elephants and buffalo, and what was the next thing we saw? Was 3 male lions. So I think we're going to keep up that little trend, and we're going to keep following these guys. Now, it is once again flat lions, difficult to sit with them, but I never have a problem with it. It's always the anticipation, you know, something, a little warthog could come walking past. You never know. There looks like Archie might have just spotted where the other 2 males are lying. So I'm going to sit here and continue waiting to see in anticipation if anything comes along. But in the meantime, let's go down to South Africa with James, who's driving around Chitwa.
Well, I was driving. I am now stopping and rolling gently back as a herd of Impalas walks past us. Young male there. Well done, fellow. You've made it to your first birthday. There, and waterbuck with an identity crisis. And you can see there long blades of luscious grass going into that Impala's beak. Now there's a 2-year-old. That's quite nice to see those things two together. 1-year-old there and a 2-year-old just behind him. And we know that, of course, because they have these synchronized births. So that's roughly a year old, so that we can say he's nigh on exactly a year. And the one behind him, only 1 twist to the horn, not yet the 2nd twist, so 2 years old. And by this time next year, he'll be pretty much ready to breed. And he'll go into the rut as a fully fledged adult male impala with all that entails. That's quite a nice way to see it, actually. With Impala, of course, until they're about 3 years old, you can tell almost to the week exactly how old they are. After that, it becomes a lot more difficult. That's a fully grown male there. And, you know, he could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 34. Unlikely he's 34 there. He'd be very old then. Now, this is quite interesting. A nice question from J-Rod Jennings in the final control room, ex-Alaska and Portland, Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. Jared asks the very interesting question as to whether the pronghorn antelope of the northern, I think it's only in northern America, it is. Northern America, pronghorn antelope is related to these antelope. No, it isn't. In fact, it is a different family, if I'm not mistaken, a different family entirely, and it's just called an antelope, but it isn't actually an antelope. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong here, but I don't think that it has any living relatives either. So it's not a deer. It's not an antelope. It lives in a sort of class on its own. So that's quite interesting. Thank you for that, Jared Jennings. And in fact, when we talk about, we often talk about the distinction between deer and antelope being the fact that antelope have horns and deer have got antlers. There we go. Well done, James. Pronghorn antelope have something slightly different entirely. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, pronghorn antelope's horns are much more akin to a giraffe's ossicones, if I'm not entirely losing my mind, which clearly I am sort of. Here are some Wasserbok. Hello, how are you? I'm sorry you weren't on TV this morning. It would have been very nice if you'd bothered to make an appearance during the section called Where Am I?, in which we asked our viewers where, in fact, one of you were, and you happened to be here. Yes, we did not show them the obvious feature of your round markings on the bottom, however. Yes. Well, you might look ashamed. Off you go. We'll carry on down to the waterhole. Louise thinks they're not ashamed. They're quite pleased with themselves. Difficult to tell, of course, with anything other than a primate. I mean, look at those faces. That face could mean I'm alarmed, I'm intrigued, I'm excited. All at the same time, I'm happy. And Louise says that she battles to tell whether I'm what I'm feeling from looking at my face. Louise, that is very kind of you to say. I really like the thought of having a poker face. Good. Now, in all seriousness, I do find it very interesting that, of course, with most animals, they do not have the facial musculature to be able to express their emotions with just their faces like we can. And the closer you come to us along the primate line, obviously the more expressive faces become. Carnivores certainly have much more expressive faces than the antelope, and then the primates, the most expressive of all. If you think of a baboon baring its teeth or a chimpanzee flapping its lips, gorillas probably slightly less so. And then, of course, the human being, which from its 6th week, I think, is that when an infant baby first smiles? 6 weeks or so? That's when you first start to notice their facial expressions, and even babies will look straight towards the eyes. Okay, now, we are going to go back to Tristan, who has got Poogie?
Well, James, we're talking about facial expressions, and there's no cuter facial expression than Poogie. Poogie has been absent, and I know a lot of you have been asking where he's been. Well, he's been traveling. He's been on James's vehicle, was on Wendy for a little bit, and now back to Rusty. And this morning I asked him if he wanted to appear on TV, and he said not today. It wasn't his best day, and he had a little sleep in, but back out and about and moving around. So Poogie is doing fine. And for all of you that were wondering about where Poogie's been, still around, still doing its thing. For those of you who don't know who Poogie is a little speaker that we carry around and just makes us all have a little laugh from time to time, and it's had some very interesting times. It's played music live, it's done all kinds of things actually, which is really not ideal. It's a bit naughty. Now you might be wondering why I'm sitting here absolutely dead still on a road with nothing around me other than a speaker for company, and the reason why is because we heard a leopard call. I didn't hear it personally, but one of the other guides heard it right near Buffelshoek Dam. Now we're in the same particular area, so I'm just sitting hoping that Tingana will call again. I would imagine that this is somewhere in this area that he was seen. So now I'm just trying to kind of look out and see if there is anything here. This stage it seems as though that's all is quiet, no alarm calls, but if he is calling, then it's a good sign. It means that maybe, just maybe, he is actually moving at the moment, or he's preparing to move, which is really both options are pretty good. So hopefully he'll be our last minute leopard today. I don't know really where else to check. The problem is where he is in this drainage line south of the dam, and so if he's not at the dam and he's in this drainage line, we're not really going to be able to find him. It's pretty much inaccessible by vehicle, and so we'll try, but let's maybe just do a little slow turn up. I was just trying to sit and listen in case he called again. It's always good when you're sitting stationary, you can hear the sounds of the bush and know whether or not it would be, well, whether or not something does call. When you're driving, it's obviously a little harder for all of that to happen.